My fiancée demanded I pay rent in my own apartment, claiming it was her property as well. I handed her a legal lease and a 3-month deposit. She refused and caused problems, so I removed her from my home. I'm 32, work in logistics management for a midsize distribution company. Nothing glamorous, but it pays well, about $85,000 a year, and I've been smart with money since college. I'm the guy who brings his lunch to work, drives a paid-off Chevrolet with 120,000 miles on it, and actually reads the fine print on every contract. My coworkers think it's boring. My bank account thinks it's brilliant. 6 years ago, I bought this 2-bedroom apartment in a solid neighborhood. Good building with actual management, quiet neighbors who keep to themselves, 15-minute drive to work. The place wasn't fancy when I bought it. Needed new flooring. The kitchen was stuck in 1997 with those weird oak cabinets everyone had. And the bathroom had this salmon pink tile situation that apparently was peak style in 1983. But the bones were good, and the price was right. $185,000 when similar units were going for $210,000. I spent the first year fixing it up myself. Ripped out the old carpet over one long weekend with my dad, put down laminate flooring throughout, gutted the kitchen over 3 weekends, installed new white shaker cabinets and granite countertops I got on sale at the building supply store. Even tackled that nightmare bathroom. Sledgehammered all that pink tile out myself and replaced it with modern white subway tiles. Learned basic plumbing through YouTube videos and sheer stubbornness. Replaced the toilet vanity, everything. Made aggressive payments on the mortgage from day one. Every bonus, every tax refund, every bit of extra money went straight to principal. My friends were buying jet skis and taking trips to Cancun and leasing new trucks they couldn't afford. I was making double mortgage payments and eating ramen and chicken breast for dinner. They thought I was crazy. Then 3 years ago, my grandfather passed. Cancer got him in about 6 months. Left me a modest inheritance. Nothing life-changing, but enough to matter. About $40,000 after estate taxes and funeral expenses. Most people would have bought a new truck or taken a year off to travel Europe. I paid off the mortgage completely, every last cent of it, walked into the bank with a cashier's check and handled it in person. The day I got that final payoff statement from the bank, I framed it. It's still hanging in my home office right above my desk. 0 balance. Property owned free and clear. No bank, no landlord, nobody but me on that deed. That feeling of complete ownership is hard to describe to people who haven't experienced it. Walking into a place and knowing every single square foot belongs to you. No monthly payment hanging over your head. No worrying if interest rates go up or if you'll make next month's mortgage. Just pure, complete financial security. At 29 years old, I owned my home outright. That's not bragging. That's just facts. My fiancée Amy and I have been together for 2 years, engaged for 3 months. We met through mutual friends at a 4th of July cookout. She's an administrative assistant at a dental office. Seems to like her job well enough. Makes about $42,000 a year. Nice girl, pretty. Got along great with my family from day one. Things moved at a reasonable pace. None of that rush into everything nonsense. She moved in about 14 months ago after we'd been dating for 10 months. The arrangement was straightforward and seemed fair to both of us at the time. I owned the place outright, so she didn't pay rent. Made absolutely no sense to charge my girlfriend rent when I had 0 housing costs myself. Instead, she contributed to utilities and groceries. We split those costs roughly 60-40 since I make about 40% more than her. Water bill, electric, internet, food. She'd Venmo me her portion every month without me even having to ask. $400 to $500 monthly. Seemed perfectly reasonable to both of us. She brought her furniture into the spare bedroom, turned it into a little office space for herself. Had her desk from college, her bookshelf, some plants she was always fussing over. The rest of the apartment stayed mostly my style, comfortable, practical, nothing fancy. She didn't push to redecorate everything with throw pillows and decorative nonsense, which I genuinely appreciated. A few touches here and there, new shower curtain, some wall art, couple of plants in the living room, but nothing drastic. Her clothes took up about half the closet in the master bedroom. Her toiletries lined one side of the bathroom counter with all those products women seem to need, normal cohabitation stuff. We had a routine that worked. I'd make coffee in the morning using my French press. She'd usually handle dinner a few nights a week, nothing fancy but decent. Weekends we'd meal prep together, watch movies on the couch, visit her parents or mine. It was comfortable, stable, the kind of relationship that doesn't give you butterflies but doesn't give you headaches either. We rarely fought about anything significant, split chores without much discussion. I handled the heavy stuff. She handled the day-to-day tidying. She never complained about money, never asked me to buy her expensive things, and I never felt taken advantage of until last Tuesday. I was on the couch watching the Celtics game against the Lakers. Close game back and forth all night, the kind that actually keeps you invested. Amy came home around 7:30. She'd been out getting coffee with her sister Rachel for about 2 hours. Rachel's one of those people who always has strong opinions about everyone else's life but can't seem to keep her own together. Divorced twice by 35. Constantly job hopping between administrative positions that never work out. Always has some new crisis or drama. Her car gets repossessed. Then she's fighting with her landlord. Then she's got credit card debt she can't handle. But she's Amy's only sibling, so they're close despite everything. The second Amy walked in, I could tell something was brewing. She had that look. You know the exact one I'm talking about. The we need to talk face that makes every guy's stomach immediately drop. The face that says whatever is about to come out of her mouth has been rehearsed multiple times. She didn't say hi, didn't ask about my day or the game, just walked straight into the living room with purpose, sat down across from me in the armchair, and picked up the remote without asking, muted the TV. Game was tied 98-98 with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. She sat there just staring at me for a solid 10 seconds, hands folded neatly in her lap. That's when I knew this was serious. Amy's a fidgeter by nature, always playing with her phone, twirling her hair around her finger, adjusting her clothes, tapping her foot. When she goes completely still like that, something big is coming. I've been thinking about our living situation, she started. Voice calm, measured, definitely rehearsed. I waited. Nothing good ever follows that sentence in a relationship. This is my home too. I've been living here for over a year now. I have rights. I genuinely didn't understand what she was getting at. We'd never had problems with the living arrangement before, never fought about space or house rules or anything like that. Rights to what? To this apartment, to equity, to security. I've been contributing to this household, and I deserve recognition for that. I was confused. Like genuinely completely confused. You don't pay rent. You pay for some groceries and half the electric bill. What equity are you talking about? That's exactly my point, she said, crossing her arms defensively. The rehearsed part was really starting now. I could tell by the way she was talking. Too formal, like she'd practiced this exact speech. I've been giving you free labor, cooking, cleaning, emotional support, managing our social calendar, coordinating with both our families, maintaining this entire household. That has real value, actual monetary value. I've decided I'm charging you rent now, $800 a month. It's only fair considering everything I do. I actually laughed out loud. Thought she was joking, like maybe this was some weird prank Rachel had put her up to for TikTok or something. She wasn't laughing back. I'm completely serious about this. She continued, her voice getting firmer. Rachel says, I'm basically subsidizing your entire lifestyle by not demanding financial compensation for my contributions. Think about it logically. If you hired someone to do what I do, cooking your meals, cleaning your home, providing emotional labor and relationship management, you'd pay them way more than $800 a month. This is my apartment too, and you need to start paying me for the privilege of living with me. Let me pause here to clarify something extremely important, because this part matters for context. Amy doesn't cook. Not really. She'll make herself a protein smoothie in the morning, or throw together a basic sandwich for lunch, but actual cooking, I do about 70% of it minimum. Meal prep every Sunday, where I make chicken, rice, vegetables for the week, dinners during the week when we're both home, breakfast on weekends, eggs, bacon, the works. She helps, sometimes usually by chopping vegetables or setting the table. But that's about it. And cleaning. She runs the vacuum through the living room maybe once a week if I'm lucky. Wipes down the kitchen counters occasionally when she remembers. That's it. I do the bathrooms every week because she says the cleaning chemicals bother her sensitive skin. I do all the floors because she doesn't like mopping. I do the deep kitchen clean every single weekend because I'm the one who cooks and makes most of the mess anyway. As for emotional support and relationship management, that's called being in a normal relationship. That's what partners do for each other as baseline human beings. I listen to her work drama about patients and insurance issues. I remember her mom's birthday and her dad's anniversary. I help her pick out gifts for her friends' weddings and baby showers. She does similar things for me. That's not labor you charge for. That's basic human connection and partnership. Let me get this completely straight, I said slowly, making sure I understood exactly what she was saying. You want me to pay you $800 a month to live in my own apartment, the apartment I personally own, that I paid off 3 full years before I ever even met you. It's our apartment now. I live here full time. I have established tenant rights at this point. And yes, you should absolutely be compensating me financially. Rachel showed me multiple articles about this, about how women's domestic labor is systematically undervalued in relationships and how we need to advocate for ourselves financially or we'll get taken advantage of. This was 100% Rachel talking. Absolutely no question. Amy had never once in 2 years used phrases like domestic labor or advocate for ourselves financially or systematically undervalued in normal conversation before in her life. I picked up my phone and started typing notes in my notes app. Date, exact time, her exact words. Interesting business proposal. I'll definitely need to think about this carefully. She seemed genuinely satisfied with that answer. Actually smiled a little like she'd won some kind of victory, got up from the chair and went straight to the bedroom. I heard the shower turn on a few minutes later. She was probably texting Rachel about how well it went. I sat there on the couch, basketball game still muted on the screen, just processing what had literally just happened. My fiancée, the woman I'd asked to marry me 3 months ago with a $6,000 ring, had just demanded I pay her rent in my own home. The home I'd worked my absolute tail off to own outright. The home I'd spent years fixing up with my own 2 hands. The home I'd sacrificed vacations and new cars and nice dinners out to pay off early. And she genuinely thought she'd won something. Thought I was actually going to sit here and seriously consider paying her $800 a month for the privilege of existing in my own property. She had absolutely no idea what she just started. The next morning, I called my buddy Trevor at 8 a.m. sharp. We went to law school together our first year before I switched to business in my second year. Realized I absolutely hated the theoretical aspects of law, but loved the practical business and contract side. Trevor stuck it out, passed the bar on his first try, and now does real estate law full-time. Mostly landlord-tenant disputes, property contracts, evictions, lease agreements. Guy knows this stuff inside and out. Has handled probably 500 cases by now. I explained the entire situation to him. Every single detail. The original demand for rent, the sister's obvious influence, the tenant rights claim, all of it. Read him the exact notes I'd taken on my phone. He laughed for a solid 30 seconds straight, deep, genuine belly laughter. The kind you absolutely cannot fake. She wants to charge you rent in your own property, your property that you own free and clear. That's creative. That's genuinely the most creative thing I've heard all year. And I deal with ridiculous landlord-tenant situations literally every single day. What are my actual legal options here, realistically speaking? Well, he said, and I could hear him settling into full attorney mode over the phone. Legally speaking, she's what we call a tenant at will in this state. No formal written lease, no specified term, no signed agreement. She's essentially living there at your complete discretion. But because she's been living there for over a year and presumably has some mail going to that address, she does technically have very basic tenant rights under state law. So I can't just change the locks tomorrow and put all her stuff on the curb. Correct. That would be an illegal eviction, and she could absolutely sue you for damages and likely win. But here's the beautiful thing about this situation. If she wants to make this a formal business arrangement, you can absolutely make it a formal business arrangement right back. Meaning, what exactly? Meaning you can draw up an actual legitimate lease agreement. Market rate rent, first month, last month, full security deposit. All the standard terms and conditions that come with a professional rental agreement. If she wants to play landlord-tenant games with you, she can play by the actual real landlord-tenant rules, the legitimate legal ones. Not, whatever, made-up TikTok nonsense. Her sister probably showed her on social media. I could feel a smile starting to creep across my face. And if she refuses to sign it, then you give her proper notice to vacate the premises. 30 days in most circumstances for tenants at will. If she still doesn't leave after proper notice, you file for formal eviction through the court system. With clear documentation of her refusing a reasonable lease offer and making completely unreasonable demands, you'd win that case pretty easily. Judges don't have any patience for people trying to game the system or make ridiculous demands. How much do I owe you for this consultation? Nothing at all. This is pure entertainment for me. I'm absolutely going to tell this story at the Bar Association meeting next month. Everyone's going to love it. Just keep me updated on how this situation develops. I had him draft a proper lease agreement that afternoon. Took him maybe 2.5 hours total. He sent me the first complete draft around 3:30 p.m. Standard professional residential lease agreement for a 2-bedroom apartment in our specific building. He pulled comparable listings from the other units currently on the market in our building. 2 units were listed at $3,400, one at $3,350. He priced mine conservatively at $3,200 to be completely fair and defensible. Standard 1-year lease term, first month's rent, Due upon signing $3,200. Last month's rent due upon signing $3,200. Security deposit equal to 1 month's rent, $3,200. Total amount due at signing $9,600. Normal wear and tear clauses. Standard rules about modifications to the property without landlord approval. Guest policies and overnight visitor limits. Noise restrictions and quiet hours. Maintenance responsibilities clearly spelled out everything you'd expect in any professional lease agreement from a legitimate property management company. He even included specific detailed language about personal property. Tenant acknowledges that certain electronics furniture and personal items currently in the unit are the exclusive property of the landlord and are not included as part of this rental agreement. Tenant explicitly agrees not to remove, relocate, or otherwise interfere with any of landlord's clearly marked personal property. That clause was specifically for the PlayStation incident. I was pretty much certain was coming at some point. Trevor knows me way too well after all these years. This is absolutely beautiful, I told him over the phone after reviewing it. Genuinely perfect. I even added a specific clause about her sister. No guest may stay in the unit for more than 48 consecutive hours without explicit prior written approval from landlord, just in case Rachel decides to move in and cause problems. You're an evil genius. You know that. I prefer the term thorough attorney. Has a much better professional ring to it. I printed out 3 complete copies on premium paper. One for her to keep, one for my personal records, one for Trevor's files, put them in a proper manila envelope with all the required documentation and attachments. Then I called a professional process server to handle the delivery. Guy's name was Donald. Been doing process serving for over 20 years around the city. Sounded like he'd genuinely seen absolutely everything at this point. When I explained what exactly I needed served and the context, he actually chuckled. Your girlfriend actually tried to charge you rent in your own place. Fiancée, technically for now anyway. Ouch. Yeah, I can definitely serve this Friday evening if that timing works for you. I charge a flat $75 for standard service within city limits. That's absolutely perfect. 3 days later on Friday evening, everything was perfectly set up. I'd been playing it completely cool all week, acting normal, not bringing it up, letting Amy think I was actually seriously considering her ridiculous demand. She'd even started openly talking about how she was planning to spend her rent money, new clothes from Nordstrom, maybe a weekend trip to Miami with Rachel, upgrading her iPhone to the newest model. I made absolutely sure to be conveniently using the bathroom when the doorbell rang at exactly 6:47 p.m. Can you get that? I called out from behind the closed door, timing it perfectly. She opened the apartment door. From the bathroom, I could hear Donald's crisp, professional voice clearly. Amy Patterson. Yes, that's me. You've been served? Have a good evening, ma'am. I emerged from the bathroom about 10 seconds later, casually wiping my hands on a towel for good effect, just in time to see her standing frozen in the doorway. Manila envelope clutched in both hands. Donald was already halfway down the hallway toward the elevator, probably heading straight to his car. Guy is an absolute professional. Amy was just standing there, staring at the envelope like it might explode. It was the official legal kind. Thick yellow manila paper, her full name typed perfectly on the front notary seal, clearly visible through the transparent plastic window. What? What is this? Why don't you open it and find out? Her hands were shaking slightly as she carefully tore open the envelope, pulled out the lease agreement, started reading the first page. Her eyes, going progressively wider, flipped to the second page. Her face started going through actual colors, red, then white, then this weird grayish pale shade. This is an actual lease agreement, a real legal lease agreement. She looked up at me, genuine shock on her face. You're trying to charge me $3,200 a month in rent, market rate for a 2-bedroom apartment in this specific building. You can verify the comparable yourself if you want. Units 4B and 7A are both currently listed right now at $3,400 monthly. I'm actually being quite generous by charging you $200 below current market rate. She flipped through more pages frantically, her finger stopping on the financial summary section. This says first month, last month, and a full security deposit. That's almost $10,000 total. $9,600 to be mathematically exact. Completely standard lease terms. You wanted a business arrangement between us. Here's your business arrangement. Professional, legal, completely above board, and defensible. But I'm your fiancé, and apparently I'm your landlord now. Your exact words, not mine. You explicitly said this is your apartment too, and you wanted to establish clear financial terms for our living arrangement. Here they are all spelled out nice and clear in proper legal language. She was frantically scanning through the pages, clearly looking for some kind of loophole or mistake. This is insane. You can't actually do this. Actually, I absolutely can. My attorney drew up the entire thing this week. It's completely legal and enforceable. You have exactly 30 days to either sign the lease and provide the full deposit amount or vacate the premises entirely. It's all explained in detail in Section 2.3. If you want to read it vacate, you're literally kicking me out. I'm giving you a straightforward choice. You wanted to treat our home like a cold business transaction. Perfectly fine. Here's the transaction spelled out in legal terms. Sign it and pay or find somewhere else to live. Free market economics and all that. But we're supposed to get married in 8 months. I walked deliberately to the kitchen counter, took off my engagement ring, the one that perfectly matched hers, part of the matching set I'd saved up for 3 months to buy from a real jeweler. Just slid it slowly off my finger and set it down on the granite countertop. Made a distinct little clink sound in the silent apartment. Are we, though? Because people who are supposed to be getting married don't usually try to extort rent payments from their partners and their own property. She started crying immediately. Big heaving sobs. The lease pages literally slipping from her trembling hands and scattering across the floor. Full breakdown mode happening right there. Mascara running down her face. That ugly cry thing where your whole face scrunches up, sobbing about how I was being deliberately cruel to her, how I was maliciously twisting her words around, how she never actually meant any of this seriously, how it wasn't supposed to go like this at all. You literally told me word for absolute word that you were charging me rent and I needed to pay you for the privilege of living with you in my own apartment, the one I personally own, the one I worked my tail off for years to pay for. Did I somehow misunderstand what you said? Rachel said, I should your sister. How interesting. Maybe your wonderful sister can help you come up with the $9,600 since she clearly has all the answers about how committed relationships should function. 2 divorces worth of wisdom right there. That made her cry even harder, louder. But I was completely done at that point, absolutely finished. She'd crossed a line that you simply cannot walk back from. The weekend was tense and silent. She barely came out of the bedroom. I heard her on the phone constantly with Rachel and her mother. Lots of crying, lots of dramatic statements about how awful I was being. Monday morning, Linda showed up. Amy's mother. Sweet woman normally. Always liked me, but clearly there to advocate for her daughter. We need to talk about this like reasonable adults, she said after Amy let her in. I completely agree. Where's your daughter? She's in the bedroom. She's devastated. In the spare bedroom, the one in my apartment that I own. She sighed heavily. You're really going to keep being like this? Being like, what exactly? Being accurate about property ownership? Being hostile and petty? Ma'am, with all due respect, your daughter demanded I pay her $800 a month to live in my own home. Then when I presented her with a legal lease agreement at market rates, she's claiming to be the victim here. I've been remarkably patient, actually. She's scared. She feels like she has no security, no stable future. She was getting married to me in 8 months in a home I own completely outright, with no mortgage, no debt, no financial concerns whatsoever. She had complete security and a stable future. She personally threw it away because your other daughter convinced her she deserved to extract money from me. Linda's face flickered with something. Embarrassment, maybe. She knew. Rachel has always been strong-minded and opinionated. Rachel told her sister to shake down her fiancé for rent money. That's not strong-minded. That's financially delusional. And now your daughter is going to end up single and homeless because she listened to terrible advice. You could still fix this whole situation. Just tear up that lease, forgive her mistake, move forward, and then what happens? We get married next year and she tries this exact same thing again. Maybe with a house we buy together, maybe with my retirement accounts. Where exactly does it end? No answer to that. She has 27 days remaining, I said firmly. She can sign the lease and stay here as a paying tenant. She can leave voluntarily, or she can wait until I go through formal eviction proceedings. Those are the 3 options available. The situation got progressively worse over the next 2 weeks. She tried everything. Day 11. I came home from work to find several of my personal documents had been mysteriously reorganized. Tax returns from the past 3 years, bank statements, the actual deed to the apartment, all moved from my locked filing cabinet to various random locations. She claimed she was doing some deep cleaning and put them somewhere safe. I eventually found them stuffed in a cardboard box shoved in the back of the hall closet. She was clearly searching for something specific, maybe hoping to find evidence I had hidden debt or that I didn't actually own the place outright like I claimed. Day 13. Rachel started sending me increasingly hostile text messages, long rambling multi-paragraph messages about how I was being financially abusive and controlling and manipulative and how Amy deserved so much better than me. I screenshot every single message without responding to any of them. Day 15. Amy tried to throw an unauthorized dinner party in my apartment without even asking. I came home at 7:00 p.m. to find 4 of her friends in my living room eating food I'd bought using my dishes and silverware, making themselves completely at home. She was apparently trying to establish some kind of community presence to make it harder for me to remove her. I walked in calmly, assessed the situation for about 10 seconds, then started methodically carrying the couch cushions to my bedroom. Just removed them one by one while everyone sat there watching in confused silence. "What are you doing?" one of her friends finally asked, removing my furniture from the common area. "You're all welcome to sit on the floor if you'd like to stay." The party ended within 5 minutes. Day 17. She accidentally broke my coffee maker, my nice Breville espresso machine that cost $250. When I asked what happened, she just shrugged casually. "Things break sometimes." "No problem. I'll just add it to your running tab." "What tab?" "The running total of things you're going to owe me when this is all over. We're currently at $37,800 in free housing equity. You haven't earned over 14 months plus $250 for the coffee maker you just destroyed. Should I keep going with the list?" Day 29 finally arrived. The official deadline. I'd spent the past 2 weeks being meticulously reasonable and documented. Every single interaction carefully recorded. Every outburst from her captured on my phone's voice recorder. Every attempt to damage property thoroughly photographed. I had an entire folder on my laptop labeled evidence that was getting concerningly large. Over 200 photos and about 6 hours of audio. My attorney Trevor had filed the formal eviction notice on day 22, giving her the legally required 7-day notice to vacate since she never had any formal lease and was therefore a tenant at will under state law. She could definitely fight it in court if she wanted, but she'd need to hire her own attorney and pay filing fees. And based on everything I'd thoroughly documented, she'd lose badly. The morning of day 29, I was eating my normal breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, when she finally came out of the spare bedroom. She looked absolutely exhausted. Dark circles under both eyes, hair greasy and unwashed, wearing the same sweatpants she'd had on for 3 days. "I'm not leaving this apartment," she stated flatly. "I know you legally can't make me. Actually, I absolutely can. The sheriff's department will be here at exactly 2:00 p.m. this afternoon to physically remove you if you're still present. I filed all the proper paperwork last week." Her face went completely white. "You're having me arrested." "Not arrested. Removed from the property. There's a significant legal difference. You refused to leave voluntarily. You've deliberately damaged my property. You've harassed me in my own home for 2 weeks straight. This is the natural legal consequence. I'll tell them you abused me. You can certainly try that if you want. I have 2 full weeks of thoroughly documented evidence showing you broke my $250 coffee maker, deliberately locked yourself in a room with thousands of dollars of my electronics through unauthorized parties in my home, with strangers, went through my confidential personal documents, and threatened me repeatedly. You have what exactly? The fact that I asked you to either pay market rate rent or leave my property. They'll believe me anyway. They always believe the woman in these situations, maybe initially, but they'll also review the actual evidence. And the evidence clearly shows you tried to extort your fiancé for rent money in his own home, then refused to leave when he ended the relationship. That's not domestic abuse. That's a breakup with an entitled squatter. She started crying yet again. At this point, I was completely immune to it. You've ruined absolutely everything, she sobbed dramatically. We were supposed to get married. We were supposed to have this amazing life together. You ruined everything yourself. You with your sister's terrible advice and your ridiculous demands and your fake tenant rights. I gave you a free home, a genuine partnership, a stable future. You wanted more money instead. I just wanted some basic financial security. You had security, complete security. You threw it away for $800 a month that you never would have actually collected anyway. Linda showed up right around noon with cardboard boxes and packing tape. Didn't say a single word to me, just helped her daughter pack up her belongings efficiently. Rachel came too naturally. She had plenty to say to me. You're an absolute monster, she told me venomously. You completely destroyed her. She destroyed herself. You just helped with terrible advice. How can you be so cold and heartless? How can you tell your own sister to shake down her fiancé for rent money and then act surprised when it backfires completely? No answer to that question. They were completely gone by 1:30 p.m. I stood in my doorway and watched them load the final box into Rachel's SUV down in the parking lot. Amy never looked back even once. Linda did, though, just for a brief second. And in that look, I saw something I didn't expect. Genuine embarrassment, maybe even shame. She knew. She'd always known her daughter had pushed way too far. She just couldn't admit it out loud. Here's the aftermath. The engagement ring. The one I'd given her 3 months ago. I asked for it back immediately. She refused at first. Rachel said it was rightfully hers regardless. I had Trevor send an official letter explaining that in our state, an engagement ring is legally considered a conditional gift that must be returned if the engagement ends, especially when the recipient is clearly at fault. Got it back 3 weeks later via certified mail. Sold it back to the jeweler for $4,200. Took the loss. Total cost of her living with me completely rent-free for 14 months was approximately $44,800 in housing value at market rates. Cost of the coffee maker she deliberately broke was $250. Cost of the locksmith to change locks was $185. Legal fees for Trevor were $1,200. Worth every single cent. Absolutely. Some people have asked if I actually miss her. Honestly, I miss who I thought she was. I miss the version of her that existed before Rachel poisoned her mind. But that person might have never actually been real to begin with. What I definitely don't miss is walking on eggshells, constantly wondering what new demand would come next. Feeling like my own home wasn't actually mine anymore. The apartment feels different now. Quieter, emptier, but also completely mine again. Actually mine. For the first time in 14 months, I can sit on my own couch in my own home without worrying that someone's going to hand me a bill for the privilege. A few days after she left, I got a text from an unknown number. Turned out to be Rachel's current husband of all people. Hey man, just wanted to say I heard what happened between you two. My wife's been in my ear about the exact same stuff for years now. Charging me rent, demanding equity, all that nonsense. I told her if she ever actually tried it, I'd do exactly what you did. You absolutely did the right thing. I didn't respond to him, but I saved that message. Rachel's own husband apparently plotting his escape. Some patterns really are just universal. As for me, I'm genuinely okay. Still processing everything, still adjusting to having my space completely back, still occasionally finding her stuff in weird corners, a hair tie behind the bathroom sink, a phone charger under the couch cushions, little reminders of what almost was. But mostly, I'm just relieved because if she'd pulled this exact same stunt after we were actually married with joint assets, with commingled property, with legitimate legal claims to my home, it would have been 100 times worse, maybe even 1,000 times worse. She actually did me a massive favor when you think about it, showed me exactly who she really was before it was too late to escape cleanly. And all it cost me was a coffee maker and some legal fees. People in the comments are asking about the ring and what happened to it specifically. Here's the thing. That ring represented about 3 months of saving on my part. Not because I couldn't afford it outright, but because I wanted to do it right. Went to an actual jeweler, not some chain store at the mall, picked out the diamond myself, had them set it in white gold because that's what she'd mentioned liking once in passing about 6 months before. The whole process took time. Multiple visits to look at different stones, understanding clarity and cut, and all that stuff I never thought I'd need to know. The jeweler was this older guy, probably mid-60s, who'd been in the business for 40 years. He actually talked me out of going bigger and flashier, said the quality of the stone mattered more than the size, taught me how to actually look at a diamond under magnification, showed me the difference between a good cut and a mediocre one. When I finally picked it up, he put it in this nice wooden box with a small card that had care instructions, told me congratulations, said he could tell I'd really thought about it, asked me how I was planning to propose. I told him I was thinking Christmas morning at her parents' house. He smiled, said that sounded perfect, that her family being there would make it special. Wished me luck. Never got to do it that way. Proposed 3 months later at a normal dinner because she kept dropping hints that she was worried I wasn't serious about the relationship. Should have recognized that as a red flag right there. When I sold it back to him after everything went down, he recognized me immediately. Took one look at my face and didn't ask any questions. Just examined the ring, gave me a fair price, and shook my hand. Said he was sorry it didn't work out. Told me he'd seen it happen before more times than he'd like to count. That conversation stuck with me. This guy had been in the jewelry business for decades, had probably sold thousands of engagement rings, and he'd seen enough failed engagements to not even be surprised anymore. Just another occupational hazard of the job. My mom called last week. She'd heard through the grapevine, probably from Linda, they're in the same book club, about what happened. Expected her to be upset, to tell me I should have been more understanding, more willing to compromise. Instead, she said, "Good for you." Just like that. Said she'd always liked Amy fine, but had noticed some red flags at family dinners. The way she'd make little comments about money, about who paid for what, about keeping score. Said she'd been worried but didn't want to say anything because I seemed happy. Told me my dad would be proud. He passed 5 years ago from a heart attack, way too young, at 58. But he'd always taught me to stand my ground, to not let people walk over me just to keep the peace. Mom said this was exactly the kind of situation where Dad would have told me to hold firm. That meant more than I expected it to. Having my mom's approval on this, knowing she saw through Amy's act, even when I was too close to see it clearly, myself, work's been better too. More focused, less distracted. I'd spent way too much mental energy over the past few months dealing with Amy's moods and her sister's influence and all the drama. Now I can actually concentrate on my job. My manager even commented that I seemed sharper lately, more on top of things.